This is Uncle Ruckus. No relation. I'm a very spiritual person. I start out each day thanking the man for the sunrise, for the land I walk on, for the air I breathe, and for this show, the Era of Reconstruction.
Welcome to the Era of Reconstruction. My name is Darren Williams. I'm your host. And who we have today with us is Audrey Pruitt, our CEO.
Hey, I thought somebody was knocking. It's our first one, so.
It is our first one, so we're testing and then going live. So, and then we have AJ Swenson. Hold on.
Oh,
I like that.
That's a good one. We need to keep that one for her.
Yeah,
You don't want to say hello?
Oh, hello, everyone.
Well, as Audrey said, this is our first podcast, and so if we make some errors here and there, forgive us. We're perfecting our skills here.
Errors on the era.
There you go. There you go. But we're basically going to dive into some interesting things that particularly affect Black Americans and Americans in general. The reason for our podcast, our new podcast, The Era of Reconstruction, is that we felt it necessary to kind of be a voice for Black Americans that are conservative and that are looking to return back to conservative principles and seeing how we can actually help them. Not just through this podcast, but also through other avenues when it comes to voting, when it comes to a lifestyle that is conservative, that moves an individual forward, a family, as well as a society. We thought that we'd be able to assist in that. So that's basically what the Era of Reconstruction is all about, what this show is all about. And we think that actually this is the second phase of the Era of Reconstruction. If you look back in history, when the first Era of Reconstruction started, it was right after the Civil War. And that gave Blacks the opportunity to, one, be free from slavery. Slavery was abolished. It brought an end to the remnant of the Confederate succession. And then slaves were able to, or free slaves were able to vote. And then it brought about three new constitutional amendments, the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th. So it was a historic time. It was a great time. There were some setbacks. But as you know, Black Americans are very resilient, and we fought through all that. We have some other challenges that are coming up. And so I think with the advent of President Trump, we are in our second phase of the Era of Reconstruction, and we believe that it will not come to an end. It will continue. So that's what we want to talk about today, as well as with some other things. So what do you guys think?
Well, I think you said it all right there. The Era of Reconstruction, what it is to be, Black conservative, and this time, this time of an election. I don't know. I'm curious as to which we won't know, what the people want to hear. I guess we'll know once we get the feedback. But this is a mix of an era of Reconstruction and an era of revolution, I would almost say. I mean, the left is really, they have come with everything is burn it down. If Trump wins again, I'm going to burn it down. If you get Amy Coney Barrett on the court, I'm going to burn it down. I mean, every response to the radical left, and then what takes it, every response by the radical left has been burn it down. And then what takes the next step beyond that is the media and even some Democrat politicians have condoned it. So every country's always had a revolutionary aspect. But now you're to the stage where the media, legacy media outlets, as well as politicians such as Maxine Waters, for example, Sheila Jackson Lee out of Houston, for example, are starting to condone violence. So it's sort of, we chose a podcast name long ago, Darren did. And so we went from a place where now we're in Reconstruction to almost, I would argue, we're back in revolution.
Boom. Exactly. It's what you just said kind of reminds me of when the KKK came about, when the red shirts came about. Like, okay, enough of this moving forward. We're going to try to take them back. And so it's like history is repeating itself. It's amazing.
It just looks different. Instead of it being the KKK trying to prevent progress, now it's BLM and Antifa.
True. Yeah.
And right now, this is what's amazing too. It is what, like 1% to 2% of the country. Basically, 1% to 2% of these revolutionaries on Twitter and Facebook, they're causing this mayhem. But what's really surprising to me is there is little real pushback. I feel had this happened 15 years ago, there would, and I'm not even talking about government pushback. I'm talking about citizens would have pushed back and said, no, we're not just going to get up and walk out of a restaurant because you come in and start smashing windows.
Right.
So there's a fear element to this, which has, because even with the KKK, that I think is the difference. Because even with the KKK, black folks were, loading up, getting their guns out, saying, "Oh, you want to come here if you want to? I'm going to shoot you." In fact, there was so many lynchings and stuff because black folks went back. Abolitionists and whites who were supporting blacks went back into the KKK face. But now everybody's going into their homes, they're closing off, and I think part of that is, I don't want to get too full of philosophical, but I think part of that is the digital aspect. Now we're on our phones and we interact through social media and iPads and text. So because we haven't been face to face with people daily like we used to be, I think now they don't know what to do but try to fight back on Twitter.
Well, I think also people are afraid because the law isn't backing them up. You have the McCloskeys being demonized. You had
in St. Louis, yeah.
I just watched yesterday a man I was trying to drive through a rally, and he got through, and then they chased him down, put a car in front of him, put a car behind him, beat up his car, dragged him out of the car. He was able to get back into the car and drive off, and then he got arrested.
Yeah, it's almost like violence
The
is being
police came
celebrated.
after the guy in the white Prius who was getting beat up and arrested him. Made him come out of his car, handcuffed him, everything. So it's like, if people stand up, will the law back them? It's almost as if it's like, you better just take it because this is what you deserve.
Yeah, that's what, and that's why the Democrats have elected these left-wing loony district attorneys who, and I don't want to say left-wing loony, just revolutionary district attorneys. I don't know. Eventually, at some point, people, either two things are going to happen. People are going to lay down and say, you know what, fine, whatever, take over the country, we don't care. Or people are going to get up and you're going to get real pushback from the citizenry. Yeah. From the other side.
Well, I will say this. I think a lot of people are very anxious and very anticipate of the election. I think a lot of people are being very silent, being very cautious because they want their voice to be heard when it comes to November the 3rd. And I think they're going to come out in droves and really vote for Trump, put him over the edge. But then, again, that can promote and perpetuate more violence.
This is where I really, Darren and I have talked about this, off mic, and this is where I don't know. I mean, the data right now for that to occur in just the main states, I think I sent it out to everybody this morning, in just the main states, let's assume the polling is wrong. That means it's got to be wrong between 7 and 14%. It wasn't even that wrong in 2016. If the polling's wrong, that means right now Biden enjoys, I think, a 9-point lead in Michigan. He enjoys And I'm taking even the most favorable, even the most favorable polls. You know, I'm just saying, in the swing states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Biden's enjoying the lead. Biden right now is so right as of today, it's actually tighter. As of today, it's 6.1 is the spread, so he's not in the margin of error yet. And then when you get into the states, Michigan, where's it? Michigan, Arizona, Wisconsin. So Wisconsin is tight. Biden's +2, so that's the margin of error. Arizona statistically is a tie. Trump is only sneaking out 4% in Texas. But that's believable. You know why? Beto lost by only 2.4%. So I think, are people going to come out in droves? Why do you say that?
They're going to go to their mailboxes in droves.
The absentee ballots?
Right.
The ones that Trump stole?
Well, there was a report, and I'm trying to find it as you're talking, that said that there's an oversampling of suburban white women that are conservative, but they really don't like Trump. And they're using that to say, oh, no, we're not oversampling Democrats. We're actually oversampling.
The Cindy McCain's.
Yeah, we're oversampling Republican suburban women. We're not sampling the Republican rural women because they love Trump, or we're not sampling the Ronald Reagan Democrats. Yeah. We're pursuing those who basically, they really don't like Trump. They're Republicans. They're probably never Trumpers. And we are oversampling Republicans. I mean, I can see how that is, and I'm trying to find that as we're talking because I heard that just actually this morning.
While you're trying to take it to Tuesday, September 29th. Wisconsin has Biden +2. Arizona has him in a tie. Texas has Trump only +4. Georgia has Biden +3, so it's in the margin of error. North Carolina has Trump +1 in the margin of error. Pennsylvania is Biden's +10. New Hampshire, Biden's +9. And then when you get to, where are the other states? Florida. This is as of 2 days ago, Biden +3. Michigan for the Senate, I know, is tied. Biden +1, so that's good. Minnesota, Biden +8. But I mean,
I hope people are looking more at who's representing them in the states, because as much as Trump says, I can bring in the National Guard, if your state leadership is incompetent, it's going to burn.
Yeah.
Well, that's true. And I hate to say this. Most of the burning, the looting, the rioting, well, basically all of it is done in Democrat districts and areas. And so hopefully these people that are living in these areas, they're seeing this and they're realizing that Democrats are supporting this. They're condoning it. If they're not necessarily supporting it, they're like, okay, we can't take this. So we need to have someone like Trump that's going to basically shut this thing down. And then, of course, Trump can't do anything until the governors say, hey, listen, we need the help. But, hopefully these people are seeing it.
Yeah.
I'm curious. Jeez, oh Pete. So so when you say that the people are coming out, that you think that people are going to come out in droves, who are these people? I'm asking you.
Oh, you're asking me?
Yeah. You said the people are coming out in droves for Trump. Yeah. Who are these people?
I think these people are everyday citizens. I don't think these people are. I don't think they're anyone. Well, I don't say they're not special. They are special. Everyone is special. But I think they are the silent majority, and that go about their lives each and every day, raising their kids. Working, taking care of responsibilities, going to church, gun lovers. People that love the Bible, and then you have those who are just say, hey, I've supported Democrats for years, but considering what's going on in my district, in my area, with the rioting and looting, I can't take it. Now, granted, that might sound very anecdotal, but at the same time, you got to look at it this way. What was going on in 2016 when Hillary Clinton was running against Trump? It was the same story, the same polling numbers, the same, oh, she's going to win by a landslide. There's no way Trump's going to win. We might as well just pack it up and just leave. Well, you look at Hillary Clinton and you look at Joe Biden, or Biden Biden, as they like to call him now. You look at him and you have to say to yourself, this guy's got dementia. Mm-hmm. This guy cannot even keep it straight. I mean, they're right now, they just said, or drew back on a requirement. They said, we're going to check your ears. During the debate, we want to check your ears. And his team said, oh, sure, you can check his ears and make sure he doesn't have any listening devices or whatever the case may be. Just today, they drew back and said, no, you can't check his ears. And so you have a lot of things that are going against him that Hillary Clinton had. She had a few things going, but Joe Biden is at a totally different level of just being a disadvantaged type of guy. And so those people who are looking to vote for Trump, they are excited. They're revved up. I mean, you can tell that by the rallies. I mean, Trump is in a great mood. People are having a fun time. I mean, considering that this COVID thing, you would expect that this had taken the air out of his sails, but it's energized him. I mean, people are coming to those rallies. And so, but when you look at Joe Biden's people, are people going to vote for Joe Biden? They're not voting for Joe Biden. They're voting against Trump.
Agreed. It's an against, and people keep saying, oh, you know, people aren't enthusiastic to vote for Biden, but that doesn't really, you know, that it doesn't mean that they still won't be very motivated to come out and vote against Trump. And I've talked to some people and they're like, they have some fatigue from all these, you know, scandals back and forth, all this. So I think it's important at these debates that Trump really rise above some of that and show people what a serious candidate he is versus Joe Biden, who, you know, might be taking lines from a mic in his ear. You know, he's really got to prove that.
The teleprompter.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
He's got someone in the audience like laugh with the board up in their hands,
Yeah.
with giving him cues, right?
Well, they say there's not supposed to be an audience there.
Right. I mean, like someone working for him.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. So there's some fatigue. People want to know that there's going to be stability. They want to know that there's going to be security. And that's something that hopefully the debates show, who will bring that back to the American people, back to states.
True. And I think Trump has an advantage because of pre-COVID, he turned the country around. I mean, when Obama had it, it was a declining economy. He told us that he's going to manage this recession that we're going to continue to have, this decline. And you know, he poo-pooed Trump when he said he was going to bring back manufacturing. Apparently, Trump had a magic wand. So he was able to bring that back. He's just been amazing, not just for bringing back the economy, but also for helping Black Americans. And I mean, that's what we're really talking about. That's what we're really stressing, how Trump has done amazing things for the Black community. You know, increasing workforce participation, lowering unemployment rates, helping HBCUs. Audrey knows that I have a unique take on HBCUs, and we'll talk about that later. But but he's helped them tremendously, unlike Obama, and also the First Step Act. So taking a lot of Blacks who were incarcerated by the crime bill of Bill Clinton and releasing them. So I mean, he's done a great job, and there's many more things that he's done. The opportunity zones. And he's just, the interesting thing about it, and this is kind of like that era of Reconstruction. So I think today, and Audrey might have to correct me because he's more proficient on this than I am. I'm just complimenting him needlessly. We have about 30 Black candidates that are running for the House or the Senate.
Overall?
I think I think it's overall about, that's a lot.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. And so, you know, if you look back at when the Reconstruction was going on, the era of Reconstruction, you know, you had 42 Blacks elected to the state legislature in Texas. In Louisiana, you had 95 Black representatives. You know, you're looking at 32 black senators, they were all Republicans. Alabama had the first 103 blacks elected to the state legislature. They were all Republicans. They were all blacks.
Yeah.
Mississippi was the same thing. South Carolina, Virginia, and these were heavy slave states. So, we're in a great opportunity right now to where blacks not only can move forward economically, socially, that's another issue, but also in public office. So very excited about that.
Yeah, I agree. I think I always say economic power is political power. I don't, having blacks in political office is nice, but if there's no economic power, then
The Congressional Black Caucus can tell you that.
right.
There's 50 blacks in Congress that control the Democrat vote, and they can't get any of the policies that supposedly will help black folks through.
Right.
That's what's crazy, because they don't understand that the real power is in the economics. It's in the lobbyists that are supporting them.
Right.
So you have congressional black Congress members time after time supporting whatever lobbyist, Tesla, whatever, Amazon, whatever's thrown their way. But all the stuff that they claim they want for black folks, they can't get past. The CBC literally could lock up Nancy Pelosi in the Congress. The CBC could control the fact there's not a black Speaker of the House. That's why the Democrats are foolish and full of crap.
Mm-hmm. So
Let me not get too.
we have to be aware of that too, and I think that's one of the great things that we have right now is that because of this booming economy, we see more and more black people accessing economics and increasing their businesses, growing, becoming more wealthy and prosperous. And that's really, to me, the biggest factor that I'm going to look for is like, are black people advancing economically? The political and all those other things will follow when the economics are in place.
That's very true. I agree with you 100%. There are two groups of people in America, I think, that really do not participate in the political system as much as blacks and whites do. And they are basically ahead of everyone. That's Jews and that's Asians. You rarely ever see them in the political system. But that economic freedom, economic empowerment is absolutely right what you're talking about. So that's great stuff.
Definitely.
I have a on a side note, just because it's
Here
a
we go,
podcast,
ladies.
you share stuff. No, here you go, ladies. On a side note, I'm trying to figure out the insurance carriers contacting me about more government bull crap. Just information.
Black American stuff, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
That's true.
HNIC. Can you say that? I don't know.
You
can say it. You can say anything you want, girl.
That'd be beeped out. Yeah.
You can say it if you want to.
Okay.
But along with the era of Reconstruction, it's brought to you by New Journey PAC, and we are a political action committee committed to bringing blacks back to conservatism, back to the values of conservatism, the brilliance of it, the excitement of it. Being a conservative is very exciting. A lot of people say, "Oh, conservatism is boring." No, actually, it is not boring. It is very exciting. I think being a Democrat, not knowing anything, not wanting to know anything, or liberal, that's the boring aspect of it. But New Journey PAC, we are committed to bringing blacks back to conservative principles. And then in turn, having those principles unfold in their life, whether they're economically, whether they're socially, whether they're psychologically, all that stuff matters. It increases a person's ability to function and to prosper in life, not just them, but their family, as well as their community and their society. I think a big thing, and you guys have to chime in and tell me what you think, conservatism promotes rugged individualism. It promotes self-reliance, which God has given all of us that he's blessed us with gifts, and that we can utilize those gifts to be anything we want to be. And so unfortunately, the Democrat Party says, no, you need to think monolithic. You need to let us take care of you. And in doing so, all we need is for you to constantly vote for us. You never mature. You never grow. You never prosper. But you are in a perpetual state of just stagnation. So what do you think?
I mean, as a young person, I get the allure, I guess, of the idea of socialism and things like that. We're so far removed from the reality of it. We didn't grow up learning about communist countries in the same way that, people from previous generations, were actually living through wars and seeing in real time what communism really looks like in real life.
Yeah.
So we're very removed from that. And so the idea, as we use our MacBooks and iPhones and, designer, whatever, we're living this amazing life. And I think a part of us is always thinking of, there's kind of an idea, I think, of social justice that's kind of really taken hold. And when it comes to economics, people, ultimately feel like, oh, without economics, without us changing that, becoming more of a society like what they think other countries are, then, they feel like then the luxury that we enjoy isn't fair to them. Like I don't know if it's a idea of guilt or something like that. I'm not sure. But I definitely understand. And I think as I've gotten older, I think when you get older, you pay more taxes, you experience more things, you start to understand, things don't work that way. I don't get something without giving something. I don't, if I'm not maximizing my opportunities, I'm not going to get to where I want to go. There's no way that anyone can help me to get somewhere if I'm not trying to get somewhere. So I think when we break things down to those basic principles, people get it. And I think there's a lot of ignorance about economics, period, which, like what you saw with Trump's taxes recently. Like, clearly people don't understand how the tax system works.
No, they don't.
No, well,
that's one of the biggest issues with the socialist communist argument, is that people don't really understand economics.
I would actually go and say they probably do understand. The newspapers that publish it, they know how taxes work. I'm not
saying the media. I'm saying people who are sharing, who are talking about this, who are
no,
like,
they
oh
don't,
my God.
They're part of the 47%.
Right. It's like, let's see what the New York Times does. How much are they paying? People don't have an understanding of that, because life isn't as challenging as it used to be. We have a lot of time on our hands. We have a lot of access to things because of Google. And if you're not educated on how to, understand what you're reading and apply it to life, I think it's that lack of wisdom, I think, that's really throwing a lot of people off, especially in my generation.
And I think that's being promoted.
Yeah.
A lack of wisdom and it's almost, I don't want to get into literature, but it's almost like Aldous Huxley, how the whole thing was to throw so much information at people that they just give up and they say, forget it. I can't ascertain. I can't figure all this stuff out. So I'll just accept whatever you tell me. And the Democrats are all about telling you what to think, what to say, and what to feel. And so I think you're absolutely right about that.
Yeah, and when to say it, and when to feel it, and when to think it. Right? You got COVID, stay at home. Oh, protest, you don't got COVID, be outside.
Right.
Meanwhile, a Republican walks out to get the mail. Oh my God, the world is shutting down.
Can I ask you to put that mask all the way up on your nose, please?
Yeah, right? Jeez, man. Gosh.
Yeah. Well, hopefully this COVID will come. Well, naturally was, what was the guy's name? Friedman. He's from the New York Times. He said that COVID will be over after the election.
Yeah.
Thomas Friedman. Thomas Friedman of the New York Times. He said COVID will be over
if
after
Biden
the election.
wins.
If Biden wins.
Oh God.
Can you imagine if Biden wins? COVID will be over the next day.
Oh my gosh. It's never did I ever think to imagine how we will be wearing masks like we're in China. And no offense to the Chinese, but this is America. So, but this is something where I was telling Audrey this, and I'll share it so I can kind of explain through it. He's shaking his head over there. But, the reason why the American Revolution, the Civil War, World War I and World War II were very successful is because people were eliminated. And we're in a new warfare now where we can't just eliminate people. We can't do that. I mean, it's illegal. and I wouldn't want that to happen. But we're going to be constantly fighting, and that's something where New Journey PAC, I believe AJ has the same feelings and Audrey has the same feelings, where we have to be committed to constantly fighting. That's what we are about. Our message is 24/7. It's not every 2 years or every 4 years. It is 24/7. It is when we go to bed, when we wake up, when we eat our Cheerios. It has to be. The people that have progressed throughout society have maintained a constant preaching or a constant informing of issues, whether they were historical, whether they were current, or whether they were going to be of the future. And we have to do that, particularly as conservatives and more importantly as Black Americans. And I don't think that's being preached to us enough, that you constantly have to consume information. You constantly have to be aware of what's going on. So that has to change, and I think we're making that pilgrimage to make it change.
I agree. It's really exciting. I've worked with different political organizations for almost 5 years, and I just it gets very frustrating when you want the message to get out there, but it's not getting out there, and when people are doing great messaging, it never reaches the people it's supposed to reach. I honestly think there's just not enough strategy on the conservative side. I don't think that conservatives do enough, and you're just kind of winging it on God's grace and thinking that's enough half the time. It's like, guys, do you see what is being done, how children are being indoctrinated, how all these different avenues are happening at the same time, and your answer to this is what? So I'm grateful to be a part of the answer. I'm grateful to be part of an organization that's strategic and really genuinely has a goal. This isn't about the money. This is about the mission. And when it's about the mission, you prosper, but you prosper because you're doing good work.
True. Very true.
And, that's so important. It's like, I don't want to be a part of this tit for tat, Republican versus Democrat, blah, blah, blah. No one benefits in the end if people aren't getting the truth in the end. And I think I'm grateful to be at a conservative organization that's like, we're going to focus on the truth, we're going to be real, and we're going to reach people and get results.
Well, why don't you tell the audience exactly what you do, AJ? The chief of staff, aren't you?
It might be easier for her to list what she doesn't do.
She's like the mother. She's the mother of New Journey PAC.
She doesn't take out the trash yet.
No.
But the other day she was looking at it and saying, when is the person coming to take out the trash?
So, my role has really
morphed.
It's really morphed, transformed since I've started. I started off just working with Audrey, doing different projects for, writing different things, creating proposals for supporters and advocates, and, just increasing that support. And, I expressed my desire, my love for doing media, for reaching African Americans and youth specifically with truthful information, with honesty, with, impact. And that was something that we had a lot of conversations, and he's like, yeah, you should do this. This is clearly what you're most passionate about. I want to push you forward into this. So I went into working as director of advocacy and also still, increasing support, doing those different materials as well. And, once I moved down here to Florida, I'm from the D.C. area, PG County, Wakanda, as it's also called.
Didn't your king just die? Well, I'm sorry.
Oh, my gosh. Too soon.
He's a good actor.
He was a great actor, and he actually went to Howard, which is nearby. But so when I moved down here and I started working in the office, there were a lot of needs that I felt I could meet too, just making sure things are running in a smooth way and that things were operating at the pace that they should so that we can get things done and not be held back. So I'm working as chief of staff now, which is basically helping around here, managing this office, and then also doing media and different things like that. for advocacy as well.
It's good stuff.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
it's a lot of fun.
And then, ladies and gentlemen, we have our CEO, Audrey, who's playing with his phone.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out this car insurance stuff.
Oh,
Yeah. Well, New Journey is, man, it's been a journey from, it really has. It was actually started when I was in DC trying to work with the Trump administration. It really didn't start, the idea started. I was in DC. I was trying to work with the Trump administration. I met a lot of people on his campaign. I had worked on the campaign in 2016. And then when he won, it was like the GOP had been Trumpers the whole time. And all of a sudden they came in and started, wanting to boss people and talk to them and take them out. And I tried to work with the campaign, and it didn't, we really weren't making headway. They did steal some ideas, but we weren't making headway that much. Still have a lot of respect for them, but they definitely came in with a very establishment attitude. Let me give you a great example. I sat with an individual from the campaign, and I told her from the very beginning, I said, when she said, well, how much do you need? What would you need if you were going to run the quote unquote black outreach? I hate that term, but that's what they call it, black outreach for the campaign. And I said, well, I want to start tomorrow, and I want to put an office in every blue city, particularly in a swing state, sometimes two, depending upon how big they are, like Flint and Detroit, for example, in Michigan, Philadelphia and Pittsburgh on opposite sides of the states in Pennsylvania, right? One in the north in the Panhandle, Florida, one in the south in Miami. I said that's where I would start. And then I would not give up on Chicago. I'd put one there because you do have to think beyond Trump. I'd think about San Francisco. I'd definitely think about Texas because some stuff has happened there. And I would immediately begin to hire and put in place. I mean, Trump at that point was raising $16 million a day. So I said one day of his fundraising would cover the salaries, the infrastructure for 4 years for everybody, including my own. That includes bonuses, it includes travel, it includes everything. And I said, so one day of fundraising, that's what I need. And I said, I want more for media buys and that kind of stuff, but just in terms of infrastructure, that would work. We'd have an office in every blue city in the swing states, and then some non-like in California, some states that we've quote unquote lost. And I said, the purpose was this. And I'll toot my own horn here. I said, because when the next cop is accused of doing something justly or unjust, legit or not legit, accused of doing something and stuff blows up, you need to be there to answer. And there are enough black people who support you now that you can give them jobs, get them out there, get them embedded in the community, and you will have an on the ground, because politics is still local, particularly with black folks, in the community, we'll have an on the ground army in every one of these communities. Well, I wasn't listened to. And look where we are.
right.
So that's where, and then so James, Bo Snerdley from the Rush Limbaugh program, James Golden is his real name, he heard about me. I had spoken with him. He went to the campaign office because they wanted to meet with him, and they decided to tell him a story and some of the thoughts they were thinking. Well, they didn't know that I had spoke to James. And so some idiots from the Trump campaign decided to share with James, they decided to regurgitate what I had said back to him. And then he called me and said, you know what? I said at the campaign, I heard what you said. And they didn't even sound right saying it, number one, because I wasn't that stupid to give away all the goodies. And then number two, he said, you know what? Have you thought about a PAC? I said, oh yeah, I had thought about a PAC. He's like, I've been thinking about a PAC. And then it took off from there. And basically what we decided is be Republicans. We can do better for us than what a big bureaucracy can do.
Absolutely.
And that's how we ended up with New Journey.
Absolutely.
And that's why we're here. And it's been, you both know this. I mean, it's been a struggle. COVID definitely was a hit. It's been a struggle. This is a dirty business. For those of you listening, I'm going to tell you right now, politics and PACs is a dirty business. If I can get into, after the election, I can You know what? I'll tell you what. Email me personally, and I'll have a discussion with you. It needs to be done. But it's a dirty business, and the system, by the way, is set up to be a dirty business. So it's not like we couldn't even. You say, oh well, you can't participate. You don't have to be dirty. No, if you're got a pack, you're dirty. That's it. You're nothing but a. Well, anyway, let me not go there.
What did Tip O'Neill call it? Mud wrestling or something?
Something like Tip O'Neill. Tip O'Neill. That's a good reference. Tip O'Neill was the Democrat Speaker of the House. Was he Speaker until Gingrich? No.
No, I don't think so.
Who did Gingrich take over from? I don't even remember. So everybody's Googling now.
Right.
So this is how we started. This is where we end up starting, and we're here. And then we got. I think Darren was our first volunteer.
Yeah, I was Can I tell that story?
Yeah. Let's tell Darren needs to tell that story.
So by way of Rush Limbaugh, El Rushbo, I would call into the show and give my arguments, and they would always align with what Rush was thinking. And so when you call into the show, if you can get in the show, you end up going first to James Golden, a.k.a. Bo Snerdley, and he is like this deep voice. What the heck do you want? No, he didn't say that. He says something like, welcome to the Rush Limbaugh Show. You got a comment or a question. And so basically what he ended up doing, and I had this notion after I'd got off of speaking with Rush, this is probably the fourth time I had gotten in and spoken to him. Something told me, I'm going to get a call from Mr. Bo Snerdley. And sure enough, like the following day I was doing something, all of a sudden I got a phone call from him. He said, Darren, this is Bo Snerdley. You were talking to me. You were talking to Rush yesterday. I said, yeah. He says, well, I'm breaking the rule because I never call anyone who calls the show. And I like everything you're saying. It's straight up the line of what we believe in. He says, I'm doing a PAC, and I was wondering if you'd be interested in helping out. And I said, man, this is awesome.
Oh,
you never heard this story?
No.
Oh, yeah. This is
first time.
Yeah, exactly. And so he says, so do you know anything about politics? I said, do I know anything about politics? I was like, I'll send you my whole catalog. By that time, I had written a bunch of op-eds. To be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, I am not the conventional political science person. I'm just not. I mean, I am finance and accounting, economics. That's what my life has been. But at some junction, I decided to start reading a lot of books, Dr. Thomas Sowell, Walter E. Williams, Shelby Steele, Victor David Hanson, and said, these guys are writing books, they're writing op-eds. I think I'm going to try my hand. And so that's how it all started. Mm-hmm. And so, I said, hey, listen, I'll send you my whole catalog. And it wasn't like huge, but I think it was probably about, I was in the middle of finishing a book, manuscript, and then I had maybe about 6 or 7 or 8 op-eds that I had written.
You're not going to drop your book?
Well,
can't drop it yet.
I can't drop
got a
it
contract.
Well, I got a
this
contract.
Is big time.
Right. This
guy's big time. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I don't even have a contract.
Listen, it did not happen overnight. It did. This has taken like 2.5 years. Yeah. So, and probably, let me tell you something, probably a little bit of help when I said, I work with Audrey Pruitt and I work with James Golden. He's like, oh, okay, we'll sign you up. But well, the truth is, because I had originally gone to the people that are
signed me.
Yeah. They were like, who the heck are you? You're an unknown quantity. And then I threw their name out. They were like, oh, okay, here it is. But anyways, that's how it started. Met Audrey for the first time, fell in love with him like a brother from another mother. And so we were going on almost a year and a half.
Oh my gosh, you're right. It's been a year and a half. Yeah. I mean, Darren was the first volunteer.
Yeah.
I mean, he and James, you guys, it seems like you guys always knew each other.
Yeah, I was in my drawers in Joe Biden's basement when we started this thing. Joe didn't know I was there because, he was out of it. He was checked out.
All right.
Yeah, this has been very, very fun.
Speaking of that, the debate.
Right.
I mean, we have an event tonight, folks, and so we're gonna be at our event. But this debate, I don't even know what time. How long have we been on the air?
45 minutes.
Okay, so we still got 15
more minutes.
So we got this debate I don't know if Darren mentioned this to you. I'm just saying on the side note. He's hosting, but I'm just here talking. Mm-hmm. We're gonna try to do this every day between now and the election. I'm hoping afterwards we can continue. I sort of like the daily.
Oh, this is nice.
Just keeping it up, keeping the conversation going, and then we'll have guests sometimes as well. We got a full staff here. You go on the website newjourneypack.org. You should donate. By the way, we do great. By the way, look at our work. I am so impressed with the work our staff has done in putting together the commercials that we have. And not all of them are even up yet. That's what's amazing. Go to newjourneypack.org, look up, donate there if you can. Do it reoccurring if you can. This podcast is coming to you free. We don't have any sponsors yet. Hopefully we will soon. And, you know, we've got salaries and rent and electioneering activities and issue activities, by the way. We have some great stuff coming in the pipeline. I'll talk more about that as the podcast goes on and into the future. We got a lot going, but we're going to have guests on pretty soon, calling in. I think we should actually, this is a little bit inside baseball, folks, but we should actually keep one of these mics and stick it at the end so we can just go ahead and have 4 maybe.
True.
Anyway, so what was I saying?
Should we do debate predictions?
Oh, debate predictions.
So the topics for the debate are the Trump and Biden records, the Supreme Court, COVID-19, the economy, race and violence in our cities, and the integrity of the election.
Texas. Taxes. No taxes.
Okay.
Oh, they've got to add the taxes in there. I mean, this bombshell report by the New York Times.
I'm sure that'll be brought up because Kamala and Biden just released their tax records as well.
Well, Biden and Kamala have been in office for 40 years and have built their entire careers.
That's a great point.
Around releasing tax returns.
Yeah, public consumption.
Right.
You know, I will say this: Trump made a mistake in the beginning by saying, "I'll release them after." Like, he did make that mistake. That was a mistake. He should have either did one thing. I would have said just release them, or he should have said, "No, I'm not releasing them. You're not getting them," and closed it down.
Well, now that they're out, it's like, this is it. This is what you were, didn't want to release this whole time.
But the problem is this: when you look at it and you make that argument, this is a fight on the margins, right? Look how close the elections. I don't think this is a blowout. Trump didn't blow out Hillary. We did the numbers last night.
Right.
Less than 10,000 votes in Michigan, less than 1,000 in Wisconsin.
Right, like 0.2%.
It's crazy. So I think this is a fight on the margins. And the question is, can you make an effective argument and say, you want to talk about a gilded castle? This is it, $750. Now, the response should have been, but the problem is Trump could make this response, but his staff couldn't make it because they're too, I don't know. I don't want to speak bad about it. But the argument should have been, Trump should have said, oh, no, I did pay taxes. The 20,000 people I've employed since I started my businesses, I pay taxes on every single one of them. So while you're looking at a bottom line tax, that's because you don't know anything. But I have paid taxes on 20,000 people, and Biden has imprisoned 20,000 people. That's the difference between us.
Right.
It's a good argument.
Mm-hmm. But you gotta have us. That's why I get so frustrated. I feel Kayleigh is really good, his press secretary, but I get so frustrated because I just feel his staff doesn't want to go to the mat.
Yeah, they gotta go. They gotta go all the way.
You
be relentless because that's what the Democrat Party is.
Yeah, Conway did it, Kellyanne did it, and she had to leave, unfortunately, because of her husband and daughter. Kayleigh does it,
Well, a lot of when the establishment left, they, so did that experience.
Yeah.
So that's part of it too. And, I knew a guy who briefly went to work for the White House, and he, he's like, they haven't hired anyone. A lot of the appointments are blocked and things like that. So there's a lot of.
Well, there's political appointments that they don't need to get cleared, need to be Senate confirmed. There's like 9,000 people that the president appoints when they get elected, and only like a couple thousand are subject to Senate confirmation, if I remember correctly. The rest of them are political appointees that do not require a confirmation process. Take a look at myself. I mean, I was in D.C. I almost got a gig with the Department of Transportation that didn't work out because there's some kind of budget freeze thing, and by the time I unfroze it or did whatever, I moved on. Then there's you. You know, Darren wasn't really in that world, but you and it is not hard. You can ask 5 people who are the black Republicans who are loyal and come over here and work and do a damn good job.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And so that was lacking. But I was in DC for probably 6 months, interviewing at various jobs. I talked to the Secret Service at one point, to be a spokesperson over there, deputy spokesperson over there. That's something I really, really wanted. I knew I would have to go to a gym or something because I couldn't be like I am now.
Oh God.
Doing it. But I just, and the mistake that was made, I go back to the very beginning. This is the one mistake that was made. You remember when Romney said in the previous election, I have binders full of women?
Right.
That actually was a true statement. The mistake that was made is when Steve Bannon and Chris Christie got in a fight, and I like Steve Bannon a lot. But they got into this fight, and Steve Bannon won and got Chris Christie out. That was a mistake because Steve Bannon didn't know shit about shit. He didn't know about government. And so what should have happened, Chris Christie, although he is who he is, and with Trump, he had that transition down. I've talked to tons of people on the beachhead landing teams. For those of you who don't know, it's inside of baseball. When there's a transition that occurs in a president, they have what's called, quote unquote, like a war, a beachhead landing team. You have one for budget, one for the Treasury, one for the FDA, one for the courts. You have these specialists that land, and then in addition to them trying to get their own appointments, they make Excel sheets that are 2 and 3 people deep saying, well, this is the ideal person for the job. And it's all who you know. And the whole goal is when you get in there on day one, you can fire everyone and then fill the government. And then what did happen? When Trump got elected, because he had gotten rid of Chris Christie, who had these binders full of people, he could not fill the positions. And so Obama's people had to stay in there because functionally a lot of that stuff had to be done.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a case, and I don't fault Trump at that point because Trump didn't know. Trump didn't know that would you come in. I mean, Trump has been a huge success running these businesses, but they've been smaller businesses. He didn't know you're now going into a staff of 1.5 million people, of which, by the way, you're only appointing 10,000. The rest are. And so if you want to get a control of that bureaucracy, you have to appoint your people right away. So I think once he knew about the wiretaps and that kind of stuff, it should have been a no-brainer. He should have gotten rid of it. Think about it. Had he gotten rid of everybody in the Justice Department, Sally Yates, Rod Rosenstein, Jim Comey, he wouldn't have had these problems.
Yeah.
Because they would have said right off the bat, wait a second, what's going on? But they said, and even Comey said when it came to Flynn, he knew that they were disorganized when he went in there, and that's why he entrapped him. He said it.
Yeah.
He said it. So how this administration took place, the trigger point was the firing of Chris Christie. Because Chris Christie, for all his faults, he knew government, he understood how it works, and he had a list of people ready. And so, now if someone's called and said, hey, Audrey, we need someone to look at, finance policy. We need a woman that is good with black media. I'm not going to put out a resume hunt. I'm going to write down Angela and write down Darren.
Right. And
then you would get a call from the White House. You go through your FBI checks. You get pre-cleared. You interview. Go through your full checks. You get your jobs. That's how it works. Now, if you fail at your jobs, they'll fire you, find somebody else. But that's how it works. And that's what happened. That's what happened from the very beginning. And I hope the listeners can find some of this kind of stuff interesting. We'll talk more about this.
Yeah.
Because that's one thing I do have is some inside information on some stuff that...
We'll have some insider segments. But you didn't give your debate prediction.
My debate prediction right now is that Biden is going to do fine. Mm-hmm. That he'll be perceived as doing fine. I think, honestly, what has to happen is what Trump has to do is I think Trump has to be different. Mm-hmm. I really think if he was to do, because he's done it. He did it during his first State of the Union. If he does a 180 and comes out even grander than he was, where it's clear this is the president, I think he can persuade enough of those people to swing. But I think a lot of this election is almost decided.
I think so too.
People. That's.
Think so? Darren, what's your prediction?
Well, I think Joe Biden will probably he won't go to describing policy. I don't think he has the mindset to do that. I don't think he has the attention span. I think he just doesn't have that. I think what he'll do is he'll just attack Trump on every question that's asked of him. I think, what is it? Chris Wallace is doing the debates. I've never liked Chris Wallace, so Chris Wallace might be he'll throw him softball questions, and when he doesn't answer them, he'll just move on. I think Chris Wallace will probably be harder on the president than he will be on Joe Biden. If Joe Biden can last for 90 minutes, I think they'll say, oh, he was successful and he's very competent and capable of handling being the president. But listen, I think the media has it already set up that Joe Biden is going to be the winner. Now, in truth, Trump will most likely be the winner of this whole thing. I mean, these past 4 years, 5 years, Trump has shown himself outstanding in every aspect. They've thrown everything at this guy, the kitchen sink, and none of it has stuck on him. So it's one of these things where, as Audrey said, I think everyone has already decided on who they're going to vote for, unless something major happens.
Yeah. Well, I think the tax thing hasn't. Like I said, this is about the margins. This is on.
Yeah, there's still some undecided. I think some people on the fence,
which is crazy to us, right? It's crazy to us, but to me, this is on the margins. This is about who in the world is going to, at the end of the day, say, "All right, I'll check it." And I feel two things real quick because we don't have much time. So one, I feel that people really don't want to vote for Joe Biden. I do feel that. I feel that because he's ran for president,
3 times,
18 times. He's been running since 1727.
And plagiarized that as much.
I mean, after he signed the Declaration of Independence, he ran for president.
Oh my gosh.
So I feel that. But I feel that there are some people that are just a tiny bit uncomfortable with Trump's aggressiveness. Yeah. And I think if they knew,
not a tiny bit,
if they really understood what you're up against in the bureaucracy, they would probably feel different. But they have to work. They have jobs. They have kids. They're passing CNN in the airport, right? They're seeing stuff on the periphery. They're not in this stuff every day after day after day,
Yeah.
And so what I tell people is think about this. Think about if you get into office and you find out this was not a joke, that an entire Justice Department was mobilized to try to get you out of office, to the point where your Secretary of Defense is having conversations about the 25th Amendment. That's the amendment, folks, that allows the cabinet by a majority to declare the president incompetent or incapable of fulfilling the duties of his or her office. I would be upset too. But anyway, Darren.
Yeah. AJ, your prediction?
Well, the debates will, they can't really hurt Biden unless he does horribly. As long as he does okay, as long as he can make his way through it, there's going to be no commercial breaks, which is interesting. So it's going to be 90 minutes, no commercial breaks, just straight talking on these, 6 topics? The topics are in the news right now. You can pretty much stick to talking points to get through it. So, I think the Trump supporters will probably still be loving Trump. The Biden supporters will still be loving Biden unless Biden doesn't do well at all, unless he completely fails. And if Trump goes out there and loses his temper and beats his chest, then it'll hurt him too.
Well, we'll see about that.
All right.
So this is, like we said, this is our first podcast. I think we did pretty well.
We did all right.
Yeah, we did all right. Yeah. What we're going to do tomorrow, we're going to resume this conversation. It's going to be all about what transpired this evening.
Yeah.
This is going to be pretty exciting. We're going to crack some jokes. We're going to talk seriously. So we look forward to getting back with you at that time, and we want to thank you for joining us. This is the Era of Reconstruction, and I'm your host, Darren Williams, joined with AJ as well as with Audrey. Thank you very much.
Uncle Ruckus again. No relation. This podcast is paid for by the New Journey PAC and not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.